I stand here without fear because I remember. I remember that I am here not because of the path that lies before me, but because of the path that lies behind me. I remember that for 100 years we have fought these machines. I remember that for 100 years they have sent their armies to destroy us. And after a century of war, I remember that which matters most. We are still here!
Covering all your favorite parts of the 50-yard fight. This is the Inside the Walls podcast with Zach Heilman and Jim Mernier.
Welcoming in fans of the 50-yard fight. This is the Inside the Walls podcast. Zach Heilman kicking things off as always here as we're getting into episode 117 here of the Inside the Walls podcast. NAL Gameday Week 14 edition. Two marquee matchups on the docket. Plenty of discussion pieces here. One repeat matchup from the previous week. One that will start a two-game stretch between these two teams and continue what has been a very fascinating and growing birth of a rivalry between these two NAL squads. And we'll dive into all that and much more as we kick things off. Let me bring in my co-host and good partner and friend on the opposite side of the screen, Jim Mernier, into the show. Jim, good to have you on here. We got even more on deck. I mean, had an excellent conversation with Herkie Walls on this one that, you know, let's just say was a little, it was close in timing, but we got it done. And it was, you guys will love it later on in the show. Seriously, a fantastic conversation. Glad to have him on. How are you doing this week? I understand you have made a decision on if you will be in Orlando or not. What are you going to be doing for the weekend?
I will be in Orlando for the game this weekend. So Orlando fans, if you're there and you want to see myself, I know I am the main event. I know I'll be with a bunch of Shark fans.
There's no game going on. Just go sign autographs with Jim. And
yes, I'll do it.
You know,
like I'll sign babies and footballs. I'm running for office. That's what I'm going to do. I got to start my campaign. But no, really, I'm going to be in Orlando this weekend for Orlando, just Saturday. To watch a pivotal matchup and the pivotal rivalry between two teams that don't like each other, their history. Both teams have some deep history from back in the AFL days where Jacksonville ruined some Orlando seasons and Orlando ruined some Jacksonville seasons. That's what a real rivalry is, and these two teams are. And right now, both teams are the currently two highest teams in the league. One team's going in a 5-game winning streak. The other, a 3-game winning streak. One has a potential of getting into the playoffs this weekend, which is kind of strange. With the win they're in, that's Orlando. And if they do lose, they get some help out west, they clinch anyways. So they have a chance where they can lose and still get in, and they can win, they're definitely in. So very impactful game. For Jacksonville, a win, and they are sole possession of first place. Well, tied with San Antonio, but they'll have the tiebreakers at number 1. But if certain things fall the way, if Carolina loses this week, San Antonio clinches a pivotal home playoff game come when NAL playoffs start here in about 4 weeks. So week 14 is here. Hashtag still here. So get that trending. I know that it's making its ways around because our loyal followers. I just want to say to our followers, you know you made it in the community, Zach, when your followers are fighting your battles. You don't have to say anything.
I would think that to put it just to put it there so we don't elaborate further, yes.
Yes.
I think that was very much a very respectable move by some to do that. You didn't have to do that. Appreciate that. And hey, NAL strong, baby. We're still here. I think that's the message to end the season moving forward is, you know what? It's been a year, but we're still charging on forward. I see good things ahead. I see a championship game coming up in less than a month. So I'm loving it. I think you are too.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
And
all
no,
for that ride.
we're not going to play the theme song of that song, by the way.
No,
I'm loving it. No.
I am no. I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. Oh my gosh. Well, as with every game day show, we kind of want to recap some of the accolades given out as, of course, every week goes on, and want to discuss, of course, where the polls are between the coaches and the media. Let's dive in first to the awards. Kick things off, as you'll see a common trend. The Preds getting a lot of the real estate, as you could tell. Darius Prince, Freddie Booth Lloyd, Caleb Walls, all very much deserving in their accolades for what it is. Darius Prince with incredible offensive performance and was the driving force for the Preds on offense, the main target for Danny Southwick. Freddie Booth Lloyd, I mean, how much do we talk about his first half contributions that really, I think, were a key portion of why the Gunslingers fell behind by 3 possessions. And then his dominance in the second half, when things were looking a bit dicey, kind of coming a little closer, he got some key pressures and a sack or 2 in the second half as well. Caleb Walls, pick 6, touchdowns himself, you name it, he deserves it. And then Kevin Didio Weber, becoming a pretty normal name. This is 3 straight special teams awards this man's gotten. And Jim, correct me if I'm wrong, but you counted up the total. That's 5 for him this season. So
It's like Booker T.
someone's grabbing some hardware.
You know how Booker T does his, like, he calls him 5-time champion. Divo Weber is doing, I've won that award 5 times. So yeah, that's a great achievement by him, and he's had an excellent season. He leads the league in deuces. He leads the league in field goal kicks because he's like the only one's kicking field goals. But TC did one, and Barnos did recently. But Weber's having a hell of a year. It's kind of nice because I did meet the guy in a local establishment here in Jacksonville for Shark Bites. Met him, had a great conversation. I'm glad he's doing well out there in West Texas. So that guy's kept him in a lot of games out there. So he's having a heck of a season. So 5 times, it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, they lean on him for deuces. They lean on him for field goals. Really, I mean, far and beyond, West Texas kicks the most field goals in the NAL. Don't even need to count the stats. You just know, given you watch games, they still stick to getting points as needed or getting them when they can. And he's been showing out. Very impressive effort for them. Really one of the bright spots on that roster this season, one of the most consistent pieces on this roster this year, and deservedly so. But yeah, you can tell voters definitely – it was a Preds week. I think that statement win against the Gunslingers at home, a lot of key performances. These 3, I think especially, were the 3 that sent things the way that Orlando needed them to go in the jungle. So very much well-deserved in recognizing of that contest and how well these guys played, which, hey, you know, anything is possible. I know that the awards will be maybe a little bit different. It is the Sharks going to be playing this week. It's going to be, you know, Cobras, and you never know what happened with the Cobras and West Texas again. We'll see how that goes. Malik maybe has another 10 touchdown magical game at Ector Coliseum waiting on his belt. I'm not sure. But hey, I don't know if we'll see a same massive sweep like this, but you never know. It doesn't always happen like that. That's all I'm telling you.
No, and the performance out in Orlando last week, you had a couple of guys on that team that can have rewards right now as well. But that one side of the fair that was in the first half was, I think, the determining factor of all the guys who won, especially Darius Prince. He went off this past week. And Freddie Booth Lloyd has had a hell of a year all year long. And getting an award is good recognition for this week. He did earn his place on a certain poll this week too. So yeah, Freddie Booth Lloyd deserves the credit, and he needs to keep doing that this week because this week's test is going to be even tougher against a team that's chomping at the bit at the 1 seed right now.
Right.
So hey, and Orlando, Jacksonville, it's a big time rivalry in the NAL and in the history of the game. So usually in big rivalry games, your studs are the ones that shine. Big-time players make big plays in big-time games. And now we're going to see it this weekend.
Top 2 pass rushers in the league, too, according to statistics. Freddie Booth Lloyd and Shakai Hoynos both hitting double-digit sacks in the last few weeks. Freddie, obviously having that monster game, put him above that total.
Yeah.
He leads the league with 11 sacks, according to statisticians of the NAL, and that's according to what's been written on paper. We understand some
issues,
discrepancies.
yes.
So, but this one, he's been at the top of his game all year. So, and you don't have to worry about any team switches or anything on the website with that one. Or so that's accurate. He's been doing that, and it's been multiple seasons now. Last year, he was on the same warpath up until he got knocked out towards the end of the year, and he was on the Defensive Player of the Year listings in the votes. I definitely expect his name and Holiness to be on those listings for options come nominations and come when those votes come out, because we are going to start talking about that a little bit more. Weeks are winding down. Award season's coming up.
Yes.
So we talking a lot more about that. Hey, Malik Henry, 37 touchdowns after this week too. He's up there with one of the tops in the league right now.
Well, there's a couple of guys up there, but before we could break down the games, we do have 2 polls that came out this week. Well, the media poll will debut here, and then it will be released on, I think, website around 2 o'clock, but you'll get here. But the coaches poll came out this past week, and for our podcast listeners, number 1 is the Jacksonville Sharks, number 2 the San Antonio Gunslingers, number 3 the the Orlando Predators, number 4 the Carolina Cobras, number 5 the Warbirds. Stuttering over my own words, I do apologize. And again, not a lot of movement. Predators did go up 1 in that standings, but the media poll might turn heads. The media poll, Sharks are first place with 10 first place votes. Second is the Orlando Predators. They went up 2 spots. San Antonio is third with 50 points. Carolina is fourth with 49, and the Warbirds are fifth with 30 points. The big move, of course, is the Predators. They lead Gunslingers by 2 points, but number 1 is Jacksonville with 10 first place votes.
So some of the voters were brutal on the Gunslingers this week. That's what really is making this so close, is that they saw that loss and they flat out buried them. Not like what to where Warbirds are at, but they put them down. Like, there were multiple that put them down at 4. I'll admit I did too, but it's a slim margin, and it's definitely one that I think I more put that vote because now I'm curious what your QB situation is. In particular, and the Cobras. Do you think the Cobras are playing better ball than the Gunslingers right now? Is the question. So, there's arguments, I think, to both that. I think you can definitely say, well, it's a 6-4 Cobras squad that has lost to the Preds, has lost some games that may have felt like layups to where they could still be an 8-2 squad, but I digress. I think that's what the thought is you see that performance, you see the QB issues. I think some voters, not even just myself, but other people besides me, kind of went, maybe we penalize them just this week, kind of give them a test, see what happens, we move them back up.
Well, how I did my voting for this week, Jacksonville 1, San Antonio 2, Carolina 3, Orlando at 4. So basically how the standings is. I look at it to a point where San Antonio is 2 still. They're still below Jacksonville, but that performance put them I had a very hard time between them and Carolina in my poll. Carolina, even though they lost a close one in Jacksonville and they lost a close one to Orlando, they didn't win. It won by 2 scores and then went handily over West Texas last week. But they look like over the last couple of weeks they've been the better, more complete team. San Antonio is at just phase where they win 1, they lose 1, win 1, lose 1. You don't know what type of team you're going to get. And at Orlando is in my point. You could tell by the voters in the poll. They were 4th last week. Now they're 2nd. And that just tells that the voters look at Orlando and go, they see Orlando with 3 one-sided victories against Albany, against West Texas, and against Albany, a close win against Carolina, and then the one-sided win against San Antonio. You look at Orlando, they're playing the hottest football besides Jacksonville at this point in the league. So I think that's how they sided with Orlando because of how they have been recently performing. You look at the body of work overall, a lot of fans are like, well, 8-2 is a lot better than 4-5. Yes. But if you reduce that to a 4-week period, 3-1 is better than 2-2, and 4-0 is better than 2-2. So you can see where some of these voters are at. And again, San Antonio last week I think had, if I'm correct, it was the closest between Jacksonville and San Antonio in the polls.
It was within a few points.
It was a few points, and I think it was like 6 first-place votes to 4. I think was or 5. Somewhere like could have been by one different voter. Is the reason why it was flipped. Now all those first-place votes went back to Jacksonville. So San Antonio may not think this as a team, but I guarantee there's a lot of fans behind the scenes that are starting to question this team. Is this team running out of gas? I listened to a podcast earlier this week, and one of the guys mentioned that this team is starting to follow the carbon copy of the Carolina Cobras last year.
Kind of, that's not crazy because I didn't bring it up last week, but that's been in my head after we did that show. Because it kind of was the deal. You got a hot start. Yeah, you had some close ones that you cut out, but you were looking pretty snazzy. And then you've had your 2 losses to this point. Your losses to this point have been, I think, definitive ones or ones that you have to kind of go through a few struggle buses. Now, credit, we haven't seen any injuries to like the QB position, but late season QB positions in question. Now it's about who's your guy that you're going to ride with. And then credit, and keep in mind, they have a bye week. So some of this all gives them an extra week to talk about it and see who they want. But that's looming. I mean, you have 2 legitimate options at quarterback. One that's been there all year, but we can say enough that, turnovers have been a problem, even I think more so than it has been from last season. And then the other experienced vet that is playing at an exceptional level last year, coming towards the end of the season, knows these guys on that roster, did have his hiccups, but give in mind he's coming off the bench, probably doesn't expect to start that night. Who do you run with?
Correct.
It's late. I mean, it's late season. You're 8-2. So clearly you're still in a very good spot. But again, this is where it becomes more of a, whatever you choose to do now possibly affects where you land come late July. Because they want home field advantage. I mean, I think if you're looking at anything, they want to come have a chance to get a win and take a championship over to Freeman Coliseum and play in their house with their cowbell-loving fans and company in tow. And that comes down to what's going to be made a choice over this bye week and who they're watching play over the weekend. Because I bet they're looking closely at that Jacksonville-Orlando game. And Orlando just whooped on them. And they're going to go play arguably the other hottest team in the league in Jacksonville and see how that goes.
Well, and for San Antonio's, let's talk before we get into the games because San Antonio's still the bye week. I guarantee a lot of fans are looking at this game and going, okay, we're cheering for Orlando. Let's have Orlando beat Jacksonville so we can get home field. Is it almost pick the lesser of 2 evils? Do you want to play a hot 4-seed Predators team to go there to San Antonio? Is your pick your poison? Fall to the 2 and play a Carolina team, which you will have back-to-back games with, or be the 1 and play a 4 in Orlando, who just basically took the first half of the game and made their own playground on you guys.
Yeah.
So even though San Antonio has Carolina back-to-back weeks, 1 in Carolina, 1 at home, they have to be thinking, oh, we're going to cheer for – we got to cheer for Orlando. Even though, yes, the 1 seed means you have the home game, but the 4 seed could be one of the hottest teams going in the tournament. and that's a 4 seed you don't want to play usually. And they just got Rakeem Cato, and they have an experienced core. They just got Trey Long as well. So Orlando's getting better. They're a 4 seed where, yeah, we're the 1 seed. Now we're going to play this 4 seed. They're not going to be the traditional 4 seed where they back themselves into the postseason, and that's going to be a 25-point victory for the 1 seed. Not going to be that type of match. Like this year, I can honestly say right now, 4 weeks before the playoffs, I will not be surprised if a 4 seed wins the championship or a 3 seed this year. All 4 of these teams are very competitive. They all are fully stacked with rosters. But for San Antonio, you have the week off.
Yep.
Sit back, relax, get healthy, watch game film. Don't pay attention to Jacksonville, Orlando. I know you guys want to watch that game and critique that game and cheer for Orlando because you want the home seed. But honestly, you need to be paying attention to the game out west with the Carolina Cobras. Only reason why I say you can keep your eyes paying attention to Jacksonville, Orlando, but if Carolina wins and you guys slip up against Carolina, you're not playing home game in Freeman. You're going to Carolina as the 3. So both games are very pivotal for San Antonio. The question is, I think the fans I think they're worrying about the wrong game right now. That game might be an issue next week where they may need Jacksonville to lose. Then they can solidify themselves as a 1. And then Orlando might actually be there at the 3, so you avoid Orlando, whatever. But I see a lot of San Antonio fans saying, "Oh, we got to cheer for the Predators." I'm like, don't. There's a saying, don't get what you was it not don't get. You don't want to wish on something to happen because the reward is something that you may not want.
Be careful what you wish for.
There we go. Oh,
That's about right.
Oh, Jesus. I am.
That's about right. But yeah, I mean,
I'm so bad today with that shit.
That at least they'll get a key by week. And yeah.
Bye
They
week.
just need
Get
a little bit of
healthy.
space. Well, yeah,
Find out
bye
who's
week, get
playing
healthy,
quarterback.
pick a QB.
Mm-hmm.
You're good.
Go on the road.
And you get to sit back, relax, and kind of watch some of the fireworks,
also,
I guess.
Watch the other game, San Antonio fans. You want Carolina to lose. Carolina loses to West Texas. You're not traveling in the first round. You're home against somebody. But you'll be no worse than the 2 seed. Now, if Carolina wins, that holds up everything this weekend. So, San Antonio, it's been an interesting week for you guys. And I know your fans out there are eager. Again, I know who do you want to face? That's the time of year where you're a 1 seed or a 2 seed. Do you rather play 3 or you want to play the 4? But honestly, based on the history of the NAL, home teams are 12-2 in the first round of the playoffs. So, no, excuse me. Home teams are 13-2 overall in the postseason. That's impressive.
Yeah.
So, if you're a home team, you're winning 90% of the game. So, you want to get a home game. So, yeah.
Yep. Well, I think it's about time to jump into those games, shall we?
Yes, sir.
Let's talk about the teams that actually are playing this week, as we're going to dive into a rematch. We talked about it. Rematch of part 2 of 2.
We're all discombobulated tonight.
Yeah, part 2 of 2 here. Game of the week will be part 2 of 3 with a part 1 of 2 back-to-back series that we'll be talking. But first things first, Carolina, West Texas. This time, flipping the script on where we're playing at. We're going to go to Top Gunner's house this time to watch the Cobras play the Warbirds. Very familiar foes at this point. Had some I think I've said some exciting games, some back and forth contests this season. To me, real quick before I hand it to you, Jim, I'm just fully expecting. I want at least a bit more development out of what Chris Ware and their offense are able to do. If you're the Cobras, keep up the pressure in terms of dialing it up when it's in the red zone inside the 10, kind of keeping the Warbirds at bay. and you're able to go where you want. I also think for Malik Henry, keep stacking up excellent performances like you have been doing as of last week. Get it again, build that confidence back up. That multiple interception contest against the Preds a few weeks back is in the rearview mirror, and you want to keep building it up week over week where you're getting into the right mojo at the right time, going towards your playoffs, and towards crucial contests against the Sharks that are going to be coming up at the end of the season. If you want to keep pace and possibly have a chance at, say, that 1 or 2 seed, although it's more realistically you're trying to at least get to the 2, got to keep pace here. Get your wins down, keep in your position. That's all you're looking to do. Keep executing as needed. You play this team multiple times. James Fuller fully knows what to expect at this point from this Warbirds team, and I think Coach Smith does too. But if I'm Coach Tate Smith, I'm going, guys, we just got to play clean. We got to execute on drives. We can beat these guys. We have come close on one occasion this year, and we were within one possession. Really, realistically, this last contest, we just couldn't finish drives and allowed the Cobras to kind of spread back out the lead in the second half. Play clean football. This could come down to a match-for-match opponent type of game to where someone's just going to have the ball last. But really, I think more of that pressure to me is on the Warbirds because they haven't been able to, I think, consistently stay in front of themselves and get out of the way of mistakes or missed opportunities. So a lot more pressure's on them. I think Coach Smith, if you want to walk away with a win, get a win against a formidable but familiar foe, time's now. You played them 3 times. It's hard to beat the same team 4. Try and get that 4th one for yourself.
What's going to suck about this game is when this game kicks off, they will basically know what's going on in Orlando.
Yeah.
It's about an hour and a half difference between kickoffs of the 2 games. West Texas knows if Orlando wins, they're eliminated. They're eliminated from the postseason contention. But West Texas needs to win. This is a must-win for West Texas if they want to have a potential chase down and get into the 4th seed if they make a run. They have to win out, and they need Orlando to lose 2 of the next 3 games. And Orlando they got Jacksonville twice. And, look at there, at West Texas at the last week of the season. So there's still a chance for West Texas to get into the 4th spot. They need them to go on a run here with a win over Carolina, a win in Jacksonville, and a win against the Orlando Predators at the end to get in. So there is a chance for West Texas to get in at the very end. Basically, have we said Carolina was a couple years ago? I think in 2021, how Carolina backed themselves into the playoffs with Rezanala making all those changes late in the year to get their team into the playoffs. There's still a chance for West Texas to do that, but they're on what a lot of people say on other sports leagues, preview shows, they're under elimination. This is an elimination game for the West Texas Warbirds. It's like that double elimination tournament that you see in college baseball. They're in that 0-1, 0-1 matchup. They lose, their season's over. Even though they have remained like 3 more games after that. It's right there. This game, I don't know how. It's very hard to break down the same game that we saw last week. The same teams. Really not a lot of massive roster changes between the 2. Walter Thomas III did officially sign with West Texas, so that adds a beefier person to that line to help C. Lewis and company. One thing you mentioned about Chris Ware, he had a good game against Carolina in Carolina. A couple of things in the second half really deterred the comeback. One thing I want to see in West Texas is have that same offensive explosive that you had against Carolina the first meeting that you guys had up in Carolina. Yes, you lost by 2 points, but I want to see that touching high 40s and keeping them in the low 40 area so we have a close game. And hopefully it comes down to a Weber field goal or possibly a key crucial turnover. What we've seen between these 2 teams and so far this year, West Texas finds a way to get a crucial turnover that tightens this game up in all the previous 3 matchups. Now, for Carolina, whatever you did a couple of weeks ago in West Texas, bring that game plan. Because you bring that game plan, the same result's going to happen. Whatever you guys did, I don't know if you ate certain type of Wheaties or you stopped by a hibachi grill that night before. I don't know. But scoring 86 points is ridiculous in the arena game, no matter what version of it. 86 points the last time. You do that, Carolina, you put that and get that performance and you win that game. Like that fashion, you complete the 4-game sweep, which is very hard to do, period. Like we see in the NFL, it's hard for teams to win the 2 divisional games. It's hard to beat a team twice. It's even harder to beat a team 3 times. It's even 3 times harder to win it 4 times. Ask Carolina last year with Albany. They won the first 3 regular season matchups, and they lost the biggest game of the 4. You might see that here in West Texas. For West Texas, honestly, I think we're going to see a team that's desperate, that wants to keep fighting to keep their season alive. And based on the results in Orlando, they'll know right before their game starts if it is. If Jacksonville is doing Jacksonville things, then West Texas has a chance. But if Orlando wins, West Texas becomes that team where we have nothing to lose. Let's just cause chaos the rest of the way and see if we can mess up seeding for the top 4 teams. But overall in this game, I'm going to be looking at 2 individuals for 2 teams. And it's usually the same guys I like to watch because I really enjoy watching these guys battle every time they face each other. That's Trayvon Shorts and Zach Brown. I don't know what these 2 guys get out of each other, but when these 2 guys play in the same game, they have their best performances. And it's one intriguing matchup. But that's going to be the cop-out. I'm not going to do that one. Nope. The one I'm going to look at is the battle that really you never really get to see in other leagues. The battle of kickers. Like I said last week,
It's true.
The kicker who hits the deuce wins. In Orlando, who hit the deuce last week? Dylan Barnos. Who didn't? Drew Pearson. This week happens in West Texas. Whoever kicks the deuce, who kicks the most deuces, wins the game.
Not too bad of an assumption there. I definitely think that'll be crucial. Obviously, Weber has been very capable of hitting deuces at the Acton Coliseum.
5-time champion.
Exactly.
TC's
able to as well. It's
Yes.
just right now we got a kicker.
He's the defending champion.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, we got 2. I mean, we got on West Texas one that's on another level right now.
Yes.
So
Agreed.
it's just, can you match at least a little bit of that production? I do think that's an intriguing battle, quite frankly. I think if you're just Coach Smith, you just keep hyping up, hey, defense, we're gonna need you to get at least an opportunity or 2. If you can find some way to kind of rile up Malik Henry, and get him kind of in a similar vein that they had against Orlando, where he's looking like a little bit off balance, a little off kilter, things aren't being as processed cleanly. That would be ideal. But I really do believe it's more coming that your offensive production just has to be crisp. It just cannot have mistakes. You just got to execute where's needed and then rely on that, as you've mentioned, that one series that will flip in your favor. That's how you win games. You got to play perfect. It's hard to say because West Texas, they've taken their lumps all year. This is a brand new franchise. They've gotten 2 wins under their belt at least, but they are the classic expansion team that has taken their lumps and trading paint in their first season in the NAL. So for them, it's hard to ask, but that is really the key. You got to play a near perfect game, as close to perfect as possible. Walk off that field with no regrets.
I have a saying for you. It's kind of altered to fit the arena game. And just say if this is true or not true that can occur in this game. Death, taxes, M. Smith touchdown return. Does that happen? Does Adam Smith again kickoff return in this game? I think that'll be like 5 straight games if he does it this game. You think so? Oh, over under 1.5.
1.5. I think over.
Oh, 2. Wow.
But I think you're going to split them, though. I don't,
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not going to say, like, if you're talking overall game, I think 1 each. I don't think, I'm not thinking like 2 for one of the teams, but you never know. We've seen it. It's it's capable. You just, got to have good return men, which,
We saw a couple weeks ago between Orlando and Carolina, between Darius Prince and Adam Smith.
Exactly. There's options. Adam Smith can bring it back. We know that.
Anything you can do, I can do better.
And guys like Childress and Gandy, they can do it too.
Yeah.
They got their speed as well. So I think 2. But I personally believe you're going to hit an over, but you're going to see it where it is 1 per. I don't think one team's going to run 2 of them back.
Okay. Yeah.
Just my thoughts. But, an intriguing question. Again, special teams, I think these 2 teams exemplify it the most in this league. Again, you're talking last year's winner and what is more and more looking like this year's winner of that award coming up here this season. So, should be a fun battle. We don't always talk about kickers that way, but it's the joys of the NAL and the deuce rule, man. It changes the game. Kickers are way more involved than in outdoor football.
It either keeps the momentum on the rise or it's a heartbreaker that ruins a team's hope for a game.
Mm-hmm. You're darn right.
Yeah.
Darn right. We'll give a prediction for this one in just a moment, but now it's time for the game of the week. The game we've been toting about for a minute now. That is not the game. There it is. It's okay. I still am looking forward to having Carolina and West Texas popped on my screen, but we all know, I think most of us will be definitely looking out for this because it's a part 1 of 2 that is coming up in back-to-back weeks. It is Sharks and Preds. This series has been actually very unpredictable in recent years. Back and forth. We've seen some stolen wins. Orlando getting the last one off of a very clean, productive night from Joseph Hess at the time. However, circumstances completely different, I think, this time around. Remember, that was the last game we saw Connor Blount, and we had Eddie Brill throwing touchdowns at the time. Sam Castronova hasn't played the Preds. Meanwhile, you can argue the Preds have gotten better since that 62-61 victory and are coming in as arguably the hottest or second hottest team in the league, depending on how you look at it. I see some fireworks, and I see 2 trains about to collide into each other. Only one of them is going to stay on the tracks. Not sure who, but there's a lot of, I think, to me, you got 2 keys here on that, 1 per side that I got to stick to. Orlando, hey, is that defense going to keep showing up the way it is? Mm-hmm. Because you got your best offense, you have the best offense of the season you're going to be playing against right now with those veterans all over the board. That's an all-star defense that's finally tuning in at the right moment. Does defense win championships tonight or coming up on Saturday night in the jungle? Or does Sam keep on going his potential MVP ways? That's certainly, I think, your main factor without a doubt. And that's the most fascinating battle of the night. I think on the flip side, though, Sharks defense, no slouch at all. And if they say continue with Danny Southwick, which no confirmation on that, but I would assume you keep that rolling, do they have enough in the tank to protect him in a capacity that gives him enough time to where he can stand in the pocket and be his good quick trigger self? Or do they get back there and does Shakai Holiness make that night kind of a living hell for the very much veteran, savvy quarterback?
Mm-hmm. This game will be so determined on the line scrimmage like any other football game. But it's, in my opinion, if you look at the 2 quarterbacks in the past, Cato and Southwick, against Gibson's type of teams, Gibson likes to disrupt the guy right there, defensive tackle center. He wants to win that battle. Southwick, we saw the last couple of weeks, moving around the pocket, putting the ball in the right positions for those receivers to make plays. Perfect. But you also look at what Southwick was doing. He was doing it with a nice offensive line and nice pocket. That may not be the case against a Jacksonville defense who leads the league in turnovers, points off of turnovers, sacks, and for tackles for loss. They lead the league in all those categories. For Cato, if he comes in, the 2 times Cato has played against Jacksonville, he's been pretty well. played pretty good against Jacksonville, but he made a couple bad mistakes, a couple interceptions. Then the game flipped on the side, and Jacksonville pulled away in both games. This game, it's more of the dogs. Darius Prince, Solomon, Hollis, Wade, Stoshak, CJ Clarence Williams. Then you look at the backfield. Then you have guys that you look at, Anthony Johnson versus Devin Maxwell. And you look at the beefy guys up front. A battle that I will love to see all night. Freddie Bouffloyd versus Justin Renfro. David Gilbert against Brandon Cisse. You're going to have some mini matches between these two teams. These two teams got great additions from the former Albany or Empire with the certain players.
Mm-hmm.
Darius Prince is starting to find himself, which is scary. Sam Castronova is playing MVP level style of football, which is scary. This game, throw the 7-2 and 4-5 record out of the book. These two teams are closer than what their record states. This is going to be an intriguing battle in the jungle. The winning team, Orlando wins. They're in the playoffs. They also win the season series. Jacksonville wins. They get the one first place in the conference or in the league, and also split the season series 1-1 and taking it back to Jacksonville for Game 3 between these two. These next 2 weeks are going to be so intriguing, so interesting to watch, and the battles. The strategy that you see in this game will be completely different than what you see next week, and vice versa. This game is going to come down to 3 individuals by both teams. And it's going to be kind of, some people maybe think it's going to be stupid, but I'm going to tell you. Justin Renfro, Jacksonville, Justin Renfro.
Yep.
Sky Holiness, David Gilbert. Orlando side, it's going to be kind of Darius Prince, Danny Southwick, CJ Williams. Those are the three on Jacksonville's defensive line against Orlando's offensive power. Whoever wins that battle, even though they're not facing each other at the run line scrimmage, whoever group is taking the advantage or winning, even early in the game, is the team that's going to win the game at the very end. I think this is going to be the same type of game we've seen in week 4 in Jacksonville. Even Coach Walls even talked about that game. No team's going to pull away in this game. It's going to be possession. The team that gets possibly 2 defensive stops might be enough to win this game. And also, I can be completely wrong, and one team can blow out the other team. Like, well, it's arena football. It happens sometimes. Well,
I mean, hey, that is the case. I think a lot of us are loading this up to be a close one, just given the Preds' last 2 performances. And, I think that is something to be expected. I think that if you are watching how this 2 weeks, they established the QB position. They got that lockdown. Danny Southwick, we did have question. We had good thoughts about the signing. We were wondering, does he come in? Does he play that veteran role and play more of that like game manager? And you know what? He's done that, and I think a little bit more, to be honest with you. He's actually performed above and beyond that in these 2 weeks that he stepped in. So toughest challenge is going to be this one, though. I mean, that Sharks defense is no slouch. It's got playmakers on it, but they got playmakers too. Like I said, it's a fascinating game of cat and mouse that these guys got. And you mentioned, of course, key players being, you're talking guys on the line for the Sharks. I'm telling you right now, Cisse and Freddie Booth-Lloyd, I mean, when you're on that opposite side and having to figure out how do you contain Sam Castronova, I mean, that's your toughest assignment of the year, trying to get back, not only back there, which has been a pretty incredible group of linemen that have played there for Jacksonville, playing 2 ways, but you got to find a way to get back and keep him contained and somehow get him flustered. That's the deal. He's been near perfect this year. It's an even better performance QB wise, I would argue, than last year's championship run with the Empire. And so, those are things you're going to have to worry about. Same goes for, Josh Jenkins and, Delvin Randall and company, Dwayne Hollis, great defensive backs. I mean, obviously that's a wall in terms of that secondary, but there will be opportunities because, again, the matchups are incredible. I mean, you think, because on the opposite side, you still have Cameron Solomon going against you. You still are going to have Devin Wilson out there at times going against you. Markel Wade, unfortunately, is out with short-term IR. That was an unfortunate loss for the season, but nonetheless, you got guys like Stoshak, who's been a grinder all year for them in the receiving corps. So fascinating battles across the board. I mean, we really could be in for like one of the better seasons. If not, I almost could say at least one of these next two games could be an NAL Classic game of ones that we look back and go, yeah, that's a highlight one from the league's so far history right now. Because, I mean, it looks good. I mean, your crowd's going to be looking pretty good. I mean, the Sharks alone are going to be bringing like, what, three buses,
I think.
Three buses of fans alone, plus the Preds fans who, they know that if the Sharks are coming to town, they're going to pack in Amway. It's going to be rowdy in there. And then the next week it'll be just as rowdy, if not rowdier, over in the Shark Tank. So the importance of this, I'm looking. I think it'll be a barn burner. I really do think this will be like the highlight. Come down to the wire. You better be watching at like the final minute mark of the quarter to see who has the ball last.
Very possibly. And for a rivalry that is just these two, the team that usually wins this game sometimes is not the better team. And that's what makes this a freaking rivalry sometimes. Sometimes the best team is the one that loses the game. So, yeah, it's in Amway, Amway Center. Tickets are still available. Go get your tickets. I'll be there. So I love that arena. That's a nice arena down in Orlando. It's one of the nicest arenas in the industry, not just for football, but for everything else.
It is gorgeous.
And it's going to be an entertaining game. And I'm looking forward to it for this Saturday in Amway.
Yeah, definitely get your tickets, guys. Like I said, it should be a great weekend. Or like Jim said, there should be a great weekend of action. And they're going to load it up. It's still a few days out. Actually, tickets are selling pretty nicely so far. Just checking offhand while we're sitting here. And they still have, as we release the show, it's going to have a full day left prior to us talking. So you might want to jump in and grab some decent seats while you have the chance. Because trust me, it's going to be a packed one. Probably one of the largest crowds for the NAL season for the Preds, until maybe most likely the playoffs, if they trend and continue going that way, or if they have a chance even at getting a home game. That'll be hard, but get a win here, you never know. Anyhow, it is time to make some picks. Some hard choices here. It will be, that is, because we have Herkie Walls coming up with interviews. See, I do swerves too, Jim. They're lame swerves. They're not the same as yours, but swerves nonetheless.
That's fine. I don't mind.
Because we do have a wonderful conversation with head coach Herkie Walls, who joined us today on short notice, mind you. But again, very good to have him on. We will get Darius Prince hopefully sooner rather than later next time. Just got an illness, but I don't think it'll keep him away from the game. Otherwise, we wouldn't be talking about him playing. I think he's wanting to rest up to make sure he could play in a very crucial first of two meetings with Jacksonville. So without further ado, let's jump on, tune in, listen into our conversation with head coach Herkie Walls, and we'll catch you on the other side. Joining today on our latest interview conversation for the Inside the Walls podcast, we are pleased to have another head coach in the NAL under our belt on the show, a historical and very well accoladed head coach too, beyond the NAL, in the AFL days. Expert return man, expert receiver himself, Pred coach and former player, so double A the fun there. It is Herkie Walls joining us today. Coach, really glad to have you on. We've been looking forward to try and get you on sooner rather than later, and we're finally able to do it. And at an excellent time, I think, for the Preds, and no less.
I want to thank you and Jim for inviting me on this show. I watch you guys. You guys are pretty good, man. Y'all are real good.
Thank you.
And thank y'all so much for everything you're doing for the NAL. This league is growing, and I'm just so honored and blessed to be a part of what's happening now and what's going to happen in the future.
Well, we're glad to have you as part of this league. And I mean, beyond us, Preds fans, even back to when you were announced to be the head coach, it's been just nothing but just ecstatic, I think, to have you as part of the Preds far further than past your playing career with them, and now getting to move that legacy into the head coaching space as well. And how have things, like I said, we did a few, I did want to gauge some interest before we jumped on, but I mean, I would love to hear again, how have things been for you? I mean, again, it's been an up and down season, but here you are at 4-5.
Yeah, well, we started off. I took over a 3-9 team, and the first thing I had to do was sit down with some coaches that I interviewed, and some of them fit in and some of them didn't. And so I finally got a staff together that I felt comfortable with. And the first game we lost, and I was like, whoa, this is not going to work. And then the second game we lost again. And I said, well, we're going to have to make some changes in the coaches. So we did that. Then we made some changes with some players. And as you guys know, you got to put some things together. They have to believe in your philosophy, believe in your system. And I got some coaches now that know what I expect. I'm a no-nonsense type of coach. I don't use profanity, but I am very stern in the way I like to direct my coaches. And they've bought in, and then in return, my players have bought in. And now some of the games that we lost, there was 2 or 3 things that we did wrong that we could have won. But you know what? Hats off to the teams that beat us, but this is a totally different team right now, and I look forward to what's about to happen.
Coach, this is your first year. You have history from the original AFL and the Ironman game. What's your opinion? Because you play both. You coached this one and you played in the previous one. What's the difference between the two brands? Is it evolved, or is it similar to what you remember when you were a player?
I think it has evolved due to the fact of the rules. These kids are bigger, they're faster, they're stronger than what we were back in the day. However, the game that I believe was different when I played the game was you had only the CFL, the NFL, and arena football. That's all you had. Mm-hmm. What I like about it now is you have all these other different leagues, and you're getting great talent. And I believe not only the Orlando Predators have some great talent, but of course Jacksonville has great talent, and of course San Antonio, and then of course the team up in Carolina. Well, what I think the difference is, back in the day we had more teams, where I'm hoping and praying that the NAL will continue to grow and bring in more teams, because this game, I love the Ironman game.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping and looking forward to seeing it grow so that we can get the Ironman game spread out more than just where we're at right now. I think too, because I mean, it is absolutely, I cannot say this enough, that I do prefer it. I like the arena style that is in the NAL, and I really hope we get that grown out with more expansion coming on the horizon that we hopefully will be seeing this off season and in future years. For this year in particular, so you're diving in, you get the nets back. I imagine you being a former returner, that's got to be exciting to see that element back. And you can actively watch guys take advantage of it. Or now with the deuce, you have to get the strategy of, I need to have a kicker that can take advantage of it and better be accurate down the field. You did get Dylan Barnos back, so that was a great addition to sign later on.
Yes, sir.
So, and now you have Darius Prince, who's a really good return man.
Yeah, he's a pretty decent guy. Yeah, he's all right. You know what I mean? No, I'm joking.
Just a little bit.
He is, when the Nets came back, and I came back, came as a coach, I think it was just the right timing. The Nets, I'm able to teach the Darius Prince, the Caleb Walls, how to return the Nets. I have a great special team coach in Mark Novell, who taught me how to return kicks back in the day. And we have a great opportunity, like you said. I call him DD Double Deuce. And then we also have this guy by the name of Darius Prince that we added on to our already explosive receivers. And of course, Caleb Walls and CJ. CJ is going to be tough. And we have Hollis that came also from Albany. So we got a good receiving core, and adding Darius Prince only helped us.
Coach, how does it feel coaching your son this year?
Well, I coached Caleb when he was in Pop Warner. I coached him. I was the wide receiver coach at his high school. And I took off of coaching when he went to college, and I was able to drive down and see him play. I'm a minister as well, so it fits in my schedule. I would preach, or I would go to a game and then either fly home and preach, or whatever it is I needed to do. But it's different due to the fact of I'm extremely hard on him, but he's used to that. But he knows what it takes to go to the next level, but it's fun, especially when I see him in the end zone dancing. I think that's wonderful, because I used to dance, and I'm trying to tell him to do a couple of moves, but he says, "Dad, you're old school, and those dance moves are out of style."
I was gonna say you better have been trying to teach him a few things, but
Yeah.
he's been getting this groove on. Hey, last game, same deal. He had a heck of a performance Ironman wise too, and it's been really sticking out of the crowd, especially for given how much more you talk about some of those talents that came over from, or in a way, unfortunately, from Albany given these circumstances. But
Right.
He's been one of the bright spots in the original incarnation from the beginning of the season that has kept and shown out week in and week out.
I tell you guys this: Prince, Walls, C.J. Williams, Hollis, those guys have really stepped up. We knew Prince was good. I mean, we knew that, and just adding him onto our program, it only can help. And we have, I think right now, if we can play the way we've been playing in the offense, and as you guys know, we had to find a trigger guy that can pull the trigger. And we got a guy that's almost just as old as me. I'm 61, he's 41, but he's doing a wonderful job for us. We were able to pick up Cato. And Cato, I'm telling y'all right now, that young man can play ball. But the answer to your question, it's fun coaching my son Caleb. I'm extremely hard on him, but I'm hard on all the receivers, because if I always tell them Herkie Walls never drop no balls. You know what I'm saying?
But speaking about defense, how is it coaching Cisse and the beast himself, Freddie Booth-Lloyd, who's having maybe the best year he's had as a player in the NAL?
That's a great question. Let me tell you about Cisse first. When I first saw Cisse was up in Albany when we played them up there. And I asked my coaches, who is that number 91? And I watched his demeanor. I said, man, I would love to have him on our team. But I just said that under my breath. And then you have Freddie Booth-Lloyd, which people have no idea. He needs to be a comedian. If you just need to sit down and let him talk. He is hilarious. Cisse, I told Cisse is going to be a preacher. Did y'all hear what I just said? He's big. Cisse has that demeanor. He's a quiet leader, and he's a beast on the field.
Freddie Booth-Lloyd being a comedian, I'm gonna have to have him on. What is it with and Jim? I only say this because Lonnie Outlaw being on the team. What is it with Preds and having comedic personalities on this squad? Because we interviewed Lonnie and he's a riot.
Zach and Jim, I just got here this year. I don't know where they get them from. I have no idea, but they're funny. I mean, we got some funny athletes on team, and Freddie Booth, he has I could be so serious in the group. I said, everybody bring it up. And I'm like really getting on to him. Freddie Booth would say something and everybody would just laugh. So I don't know where Orlando get these characters from, but I'm glad to be a part of it.
Certainly got the characters, got the talent, and not just player wise. Look, I think I'd love to hear your thoughts on like Coach Ware being on this roster as well. Again, unfortunate circumstances, him departing from Albany, but is a big gain to your roster and your coaching staff all the same.
I tell you what, when I saw Coach Ware up in Albany and they beat us pretty bad, I think Coach Ware was running the defense. He was running the offense. I think he was doing it all. Well, whenever we found out that we were going to be adding them to our staff, I said to myself, listen, my job as a head coach is to help coach my coaches. And with EJ, my defensive coordinator, with Ware, my offensive coordinator, with Coach Novell, my special team coach, I want to know, what can I do as a head coach to help you be better? They report to me. I know we talk about game plans. We talk about strategies. We talk about different mismatches with our receivers, with their DBs, with their receivers, our DBs. And it's a communication thing where Ware doesn't have the pressure that he had up in Albany trying to do it all. He has coaches like myself and EJ and Marcus and even Coach Rick. We kind of help him out, and we have a scheme. I'm not going to tell you what we're going to do against Jacksonville, but we have a scheme against their DBs, and it's a great addition to have coaches that you can help coach and help them be better coaches.
Right. Oh, having that staff is huge. And I think just reciprocating the knowledge back to you as well, it has to be huge too. And good thing you're not sharing that game plan, because Jim right here being the unofficial inside party that he is.
Yeah, I see him. He's quiet. I can see him over there being quiet. Yeah.
Trying to stay away from acknowledging that little feud in Florida between you two, but it is what it is. It's a fun little week we're having ahead.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to
part 1
it.
of 2.
Yeah,
or
yeah.
part 2 of 3, I guess.
Could be 3. Could be 3 if things go well. Yeah.
Well, speaking of such rivalry, Orlando has had a history of winning traditions dating back to its beginnings in the original AFL. How hard is it for you as a coach to take over a team that's been the depths of the NAL, the stars of franchise, for you, who's been used to playing Orlando when they're 12-4,
Right.
13-3, deep playoff runs, and now you're taking over an organization that hasn't seen that highlights in a long time? How is that building in Orlando? How is that changing the culture or the narrative to get Orlando back to where they used to be in their heyday?
That's a good question, Jim. What I wanted to do from the beginning, whenever John Chaney and Nate Sterling Jr. hired me as their head coach, the first thing I told them is that you guys gotta trust the process. You gotta trust the process that I'm about to put my coaches through and my players through. It's gonna take a minute, but it's all started to me with the mindset. You got to believe that you can win. I had to get a couple of cancers out of my locker room, and which I did, and that's where it started. And once we start believing, and it's a team, as you guys know, it's a team sport. These guys, I think the last couple of years, this organization came in almost, if not last place, next to last. So just coming in, I knew that I needed to surround myself with like-minded people, both coaches and players. And right now, even when we were 1-4, 1-3, 1-5, I knew back in the back of my head that we're about to turn around, and we added some pieces to this puzzle, and we're still adding as we speak. And I tell y'all this, we will get the organization back to where it is or where it was and beyond that.
I think that's something that has been a big conversation, because I'll tell you, if there's one thing me and Jim have loved seeing since we even started this show, and even before you have joined on as head coach, the Preds fan base has come back, or it is coming back year over year, which is it's incredible to see. And now we're just talking. Now if you see the performance and the play and the wins start rallying up. Just imagine where the possibilities are going with that. I mean, we're talking that the home opener, and this is because we follow the other leagues, the home opener for the Preds drew and challenged a XFL team in the same city.
Correct.
On the same weekend.
Correct.
That's wild to me.
Well, Zach, we have, I think, other than Jacksonville, probably the best fan club, fan-based people. I know people from 1991 that are still going to the games. They still know me. I've got a little gray now, but they still remember me, and I remember them. And now we're going after the new generation of the people, because here in Orlando, people change every 3 years. So we're going after the young crowd. But I tell you what helps: winning helps.
Winning cures everything, as they say, right?
Bingo.
Winning helps. Winning helps a lot. And I, like I said, guys, we have a long way to go. I told Mr. John Chaney and Nate Stallings Jr. that I'm going to do whatever I can to get this organization back to where it needs to be. And once we do that as a franchise, it's going to do nothing but help the NAL.
Mm-hmm.
And also makes the rivalry between us and between the Sharks even better. So, just saying.
Well, I tell you what, Jacksonville, when we went up there earlier this year, the fans up there, I love them. They gave me a hard time, but I love them. You know what I mean?
That's what we do. It's what we do up in Jacksonville.
Yeah. What do y'all call it? Duval?
Yeah, that's about right. Yeah, but I think Orlando people was like, "Stop, coach! Don't say that."
Yeah, I know.
As a Jacksonville resident, that saying does get kind of annoying, especially during the NFL season. It's like,
I get it.
We get it. We know. All right, let's go to the next step.
Right.
Coach, you did talk a bit on the QB situation, at least in some of the talents you got there. If you'd like to elaborate, because I mean, it's been a little bit of a wild ride for kind of the QB choices, whether it was one way or another having to swap in and out. Seems like now you talked about the quick trigger of Southwick, savvy vet he is, and now you got Rakeem Cato. I mean, how do you evaluate your current QB room given those two and what you've gone through this year?
Well, I tell you what, at the beginning of the year, we signed a young kid that had indoor experience, but I knew in the back of my mind he wasn't going to be the answer. Then Albany had a young man by the name of Joseph Hess. Mm-hmm. Came in, he did wonderful for us up in Jacksonville when we won that game. And then after that, he's a rookie. Okay, so he was making rookie mistakes. And then we were able to get a young man by the name of Jonathan Bain. And of course, we can talk about that later. But after that incident happened, we brought in Southwick. And then a couple of weeks later, Fayetteville did what they did. And we had an opportunity to get a young man by the name of Cato, who was here with them a year ago. And I didn't understand why he was gone until the coaches kind of explained to me why he left. But he's back, and our current QB situations, I can look at Coach Ware now and say, "Hey, man, I have a good feeling about our QBs right about now." But 3 weeks ago, prior to Bain getting here, I looked at Ware and I said, "Hey, man, I got concerns," and he knew it, and I knew it, and so we had to simplify the game a lot. But now we have veterans. Now we can do more on offense. And that's what we're going to do. We have a lot of weapons, and we're looking forward to showing it.
You got this. I wanted to send you a message earlier a couple of weeks ago when you sign the savvy veteran that is Danny Southwick. The guy's resume is scroll-like. It's ridiculous how long it is. Since he came back into the NAL, I mentioned on the show with Zach that Orlando doesn't need a quarterback to go out there to win them the game. You need a quarterback that knows where to put the ball at the right place. Danny's came in the last 2 weeks, and he's done exactly that. And your team has quite handled both opponents since he's been at the helm. What's this version of Danny Southwick like compared to the maybe past versions that you've seen of him before?
Well, Jim, like you said, he's savvy. I mean, we don't have to. I don't need a quarterback that can run. I just need a QB that can put the ball in Darius Prince's hands, Caleb Wall's hands, and CJ, and let them do what they do. And so the difference is I have a trigger guy that knows the game. Mm-hmm. He's been around. He's smart, and he loves the game. I mean, even in practice, he's enthusiastic. He knows the offense is running a lot smoother, and it all comes with just knowing. You guys know, arena football is not rocket science at all.
Yeah.
And you just need to put the ball where it's supposed to, because there's only so many defenses you can run. That's why there's so many points allowed and scored in this type of game, because there's only so many defense you can run. And if you play man-to-man against my receivers, good luck.
Got to be playing really good man-to-man. This is the deal. But I think like the trigger, I think you talk about like that trigger happy, or at least I would say quick trigger. Like we talk about rookie QBs anytime we see them coming in these leagues, and I go, all right, how fast is this guy's brain? Because we're either going to see a dude that wants to play hero ball after like 2 seconds, or it's going to be he rushes every throw, hits it into the turf, or maybe throws it behind. And we've seen all that this year. I mean, you played again, like for example, you played Albany back in week 10, and I've seen Roland Rivers in the USFL. I think he's a solid QB or has the talent, but definitely was someone that I'm going, this guy is not ready for that fast pace and needs way more time.
Correct. And you know, he's a good quarterback, but this game is totally different. This is why I tell people, listen, indoor football takes a special type of athlete, a special type of quarterback, a special type of receiver, DB, lineman. I know, you know, we kind of joked a little bit about it, Jim, where you were, you know, your specialist was defensive end, but you couldn't catch. But in this league, I guarantee you there will be some coaches that will pull you to the side and say, hey, look, we're going to catch 50 balls. You're going to catch them. And then once the game starts, you'll be so used to it. But that's why they call it Iron Man football.
It's the beauty of the game for it. It's a great, and it's one of the best ways I think to highlight an all-around true athlete, especially, is that specific skill set of being able to go back and forth, old school football as it used to be.
Yeah.
You know, that's from coming from someone that just recently visited Canton to reestablish that it's been a long time in the NFL since we've seen an Iron Man, but it's kind of nice to see it back in arena at least as its own thing. Yes. Coach, I know I hate to revisit this week in a way, but I just thought this was one of the most powerful moments I've seen in the league this season was I think the ending of your contest with Albany in week 10. Circumstances at the end, I would say a little hairy, a lot of uncertainty. You know, obviously Jonathan Bain is doing well now, but at that time, a lot of us were kind of hanging in the air there. And we saw you on, you know, broadcast shows you on camera and uniting both teams to kind of go behind one cause here and I think come together to support one united, I think, front in terms of Bain's health at that time. Can you take us through kind of that end sequence of that contest and where you were at that time?
Absolutely. It backs up to the Albany, Orlando, when everything happened up there and we were able and fortunate to have 4 players from that organization. There was a lot of tense up anger on that team up in Albany, and I believe they had 9 personal fouls. Orlando had 0. Well, when that happened to JB, Jonathan Bain, when I ran out there, and I never forget what he said to me. He says, Coach, let me get up I'm going to be all right. I says, I know you're going to be okay. I said, but let's just listen to what they're telling you to do. Once they rolled him out, I talked with Aaron, the head referee that night. And I said, sir, is there any way possible we can just stop this game? It was 9 minutes and 15 seconds left. Mm-hmm. He says, no, we can't, but we'll make the clock run. So I went to Coach Ware and I said, Coach, we're just running the ball. We're not throwing anymore. We're just going to run the ball. So we ran the clock out. Toward the end of the game, prior to the end of the game, Nate Sterlings Jr. pulled me to the side and he prayed for me behind the scenes. When he got done praying for me, I went back out and the game was almost over. And then John Chaney says, here's the mic. And he gave me the mic. And I was like, wow, okay. Well, what I wanted at that time was everyone, the Predators players, the Albany players, to come together. And then I asked the crowd, I said, if you all could we just witnessed something that is, it could be bad, but I believe in the power of prayer. And I'm just going to ask all of you to come together, stretch forth your right hand toward the field. And Zach and Jim, what happened that next few minutes was amazing. I'm looking at the Predators and the Empire players hugging. I'm looking at the stands. Everyone, you can hear a pin drop. And there was a prayer, and I just said, you know, I believe in a healer. I believe in Jesus. I believe that he will take care of not only Jonathan Bain, but he'll be up walking again. I just believe that. Mm-hmm. And the Bible says where 2 or 3 are gathered and they believe, he's there in the midst. So we all came into agreement. And next thing you know, everybody's saying amen, amen, and amen. And I kind of walked off the field like, I want to make sure John's all right. And just last week I saw him again. He's standing up. And it was just amazing, Zach and Jim. It was just amazing. And it was just a moment where I believe that we as human beings, when we come together, we are a powerful force.
Yeah. It put us, I was blown, we were both blown away by that whole moment in time. And I think just anytime me and Jim have seen, when we see Jonathan on screen, you know, giving the thumbs up to the crowd, getting that shot, and just seeing people kind of being just happy to see him up and about at those games. It's a wonderful feeling, you know, and the fact that we can hope and see that this young man gets to continue on with maybe athletic career, you know, getting to still live a normal life and all that. Yes, and we had that certainty, you know, solved from that week after a tense game that was up until those final moments. That it's definitely one of the it's one of the points in the season I will not forget, more for I think the positive aftermath of that situation.
Amen. Amen.
For the most part. Yes.
Amen. I tell you guys this, as I think you guys know, I'm a preacher. I've been preaching since 2003. You can ask my players and coaches. I believe in the power of prayer. I believe that football is sort of like life. You get knocked down, but you have to get up. And sometimes you win and sometimes you lose. And here's one thing, Zach and Jim, I know you guys know. You find out who your real friends are when you're losing, don't you?
Yes, we do.
Yeah, you do.
It's true.
And but that's why I if there's a saying that I would say for 2023 for the Orlando Predators organization, and I would say for this world, trust the process. Whatever path God has you to go down, just trust it. And it's bigger than football, and I relate that to my coaches and players, and hopefully I'm relating it to the league, that just trust the process. Whatever path God has you to go down, just trust it, and everything will be okay.
Amen to that.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Amen to that, indeed. Coach, want to definitely, before we let you go, we'll get you full thoughts on this, because you are, again, playing the Sharks. It's second matchup of 3 of total of the year. Different circumstances for both your sides. You brought up as we're talking a very talented QB over in Jacksonville, one that you might think gets some accolades at the end of the season. How do you evaluate the Sharks right now compared to maybe your first time?
I tell you right now, they got Casanova. And
I like how you led with
that's
that,
all.
by the way.
That's all I'm going to tell you. That they have him. He's right now, to me, he is the MVP of the league. We have a great challenge that's going to be ahead of us these next 2 weeks, if you know what I mean, possible 3. And we're going to have to come out and really, see where he's at, because he's gonna put points up, but we have to really get the heat on him. They have great receivers. Solomon is doing very well for them. Their defense is solid. And once again, I believe that Coach Gibson is doing a wonderful job up there for that organization. When I first got the job, he shook my hand. He says, "Congratulations, you're going to do great for this league." And we're in it both for the long term for the NAL. But this is going to be, if you want to see an old school rivalry game, Saturday night, 7:00 Eastern time in the jungle, baby. Come check us out playing them Sharks.
I'll be there. I know that for sure.
I know you will, man.
You'll hear him too.
I'm not. I don't know. Probably. Maybe. Might.
I know you. He'll hear you. He might, but he's got other priorities on the turf to worry about.
Yes.
One
of my priorities is go meet Bane. That's one of my priorities. So.
Oh yeah. Well, let's try to make that happen, man. Let's try to make that happen.
Mm-hmm.
Let's try to make that happen.
Hey, I'll send my regards from out in the desert for that. But I will look forward to watching that on screen. And anyone watching this right now, it is the game of the week for a reason. It's 2 high-powered teams. I think a great rivalry that is continuing to kindle up more so since the Preds have come in to play, and both sides have had their fun, have had their games and their shots at each other. So it is truly anything goes with these contests. Last one got a lick in. I think anything's possible for this contest, and we can't wait to see how you guys play in the jungle. And it's in the jungle. It's just a fun atmosphere to watch on TV or to be in person, probably more so.
Yeah. I look forward to it. It's going to be a great game. One thing I do pray for, that both teams will come out healthy. I believe they're bringing like 2 or 3 buses down. I pray for safe travels for them, and we just want to have a good time in the jungle. And this game is going to be great for the NAL. I believe that Chris Zigfrey is doing a good job. I know he's been challenged a lot, but you know what? He's doing a good job. We're still taking this to the next level, and I just look forward to this game.
Can't wait to watch you guys and your crew battle on the turf. Herkie, thank you, Coach Walls, to be more proper. Don't want to be rude. Thank you so much.
Right.
Thank you so much for joining. Seriously, cannot thank you enough. Looking forward to maybe next time we get the chance to discuss further down the line and to see where the NAL goes, as we all 3 of us are all on the same boat. Just wanting to grow the league and grow the sport.
Well, Zach and Jim, thank y'all once again for inviting me on your show. You guys are doing a wonderful job, and we want to thank you all from the Orlando Predators organization. We thank y'all for all y'all doing for this league, and all I got to say is trust the process.
Trust the process.
Yeah, let's go. I got a vision I see in my head, a melody buried deep into my soul. They call us crazy, we cutting the edge, unlocking the future and letting it go. This is a calling that's higher the time we decided our stories are gonna be told. This is what legends are born, we paving the road, a future that favors the bold. Break the rules, break the laws, this is the moment we change it all. Break the rules, break the laws, this is the moment we change it all. Yeah, greatness, yeah, it feels like greatness. Woo! Greatness, yeah, it feels like greatness. Legendary in the making. Reach out and we take it. About to emerge, we on the verge, and it feels like greatness. Something coming, I can feel it.
Hey, thanks again to head coach Herkie Walls for joining us on the program for our interview this week. Again, really, really awesome. I love the conversation. And again, I know it's a tough question to ask about that Week 10 incident, of course, but the way he responded, again, I just cannot stress enough. That really was such a powerful, like, sports moment, like a just like camaraderie type of moment that amplifies kind of like some of the beauties of like football and the companionship you get out of the game. I couldn't pass up the chance to ask, even though I know it is one of the harder memories of this season. But we are seeing it's been a positivity toward ever since then, stemming, I think, from, as we mentioned, that kind of prayer circle getting together and kind of moving on from a very chippy game at that time. And it's been a good year for him, just showing his leadership in that way and many others beyond that, as we've seen.
It was a very chippy game. A lot of stuff happened before it, especially the week building up to it. And then what happened to Bain. And Herkie Walls then stepped in and became the leader, basically, of the Orlando organization. And what he did was, well, he got everyone focused. As you heard on the interview, he's a minister, pastor. So he has experience of talking to a large crowd of people. And I think he was just the right place at the right time for him to do that. And luckily, the man above has given Bain some great, actually, progress. He's now standing. He will be in Orlando on Saturday. So that's always good, because when we think of injuries in football, a lot of people remember what happened to Hamlin in Buffalo on that Monday night game against Cincinnati. So everything, like you hear people say, it's bigger than football. There's some things bigger than football. That was one thing. And Herkie I think he was the right man at the right time for that moment. And sometimes God blesses you with many things. And he's blessed just not the Orlando organization, but Jonathan Bain, and gave Herkie the platform to do so at that time. So guarantee you the family and Bain is very grateful for that moment too as well, especially how intense and heightened everything was at that moment and when that thing happened. So
Yeah, good. Really a great way to kind of, put everyone put together, and I think powerful voice that Herkie is, and just getting to hear a bit of how he's been changing some of the items in Orlando, and he said, I think great statement from him, just kind of similar vein as we know about with Jason Gibson. He's much in that vein of he's in for the long haul. He believes in the NAL brand. He believes in the NAL game, the arena game. Again, the game he played in, the Nets, the Iron Man setup. He loves this, So this is the coach you want in this sport. I know there were some people when he got hired on that had a lot of questions. And you know what? I think in terms of the leadership and what he brings to that organization and the fan base, it has paid off in droves this season. So I think he was the right hire. I said it at the time. I still believe that. And he's shown it off, and we're glad that we have an AFL legend in the NAL that is pushing that brand and wants this brand to thrive, and is for that, and is for pushing it towards becoming at least something similar, or at least on the path back to what he has remembered it back in the day. So that is awesome. Like, that part of the interview was fantastic. I loved everything about it. He is. He was a joy. Like I said, one of my favorite conversations this season.
I did, and one of the comments asked him about getting the Predators back to what they were in the heyday. A lot of people remember that place, 20-some thousand packed back in the day. That was an arena you didn't want to go play in, especially late July and August when the playoffs are happening. So it's an area right now, not so much. It's not the old jungle, but when the jungle is rocking, it has 10,000 plus there, and the building's tough. And he has, in my opinion, is a coach that's building that culture back in Orlando, because he played there in its heyday. So he knows what the jungle can get to.
Oh yeah, he knows what Preds fans, and he's talking. Well, it's funny too because he's talking about a bunch of the guys that are returning Preds fans. You know, like this, like we're talking like the Greens and the Morrises of the world that have stuck with this through and through since the beginning. So he's was amazed as well, talking about people that he used to, be rooted for as a player. Now he's their coach.
Correct.
So really cool stuff. Glad we got a conversation, and now you'll get to see if we picked his team to get the W this weekend. It is his time for our Week 14 NAL Pickem. Looking down at the scores below, I did take a split decision last week, so I get part of my slim lead over Jim cut down slightly. Both of us hitting 20 wins. Pretty competitive, or very competitive this season between you and I, getting these picks. So love to see this come down the wire just like the standings. I would not want it any other way. And we'll see if you and I are going to make a split decision or if we'll rise or fall together, shall we? Let's kick it off. Cobras, West Texas Warbirds. Remember, Cobras are traveling second game in a row, fourth game overall. These two have played each other, going back to Ector County Memorial Coliseum. And big questions are, for me, can you see the Warbirds finish with a clean, close to perfect game? There's never a perfect game, but there is a close to perfect game you can try and achieve. I don't know if that is the case. That's my only thing is, can your offense get out of the way? I don't think it will. I think the Cobras are going to keep using that energy they established from last week. They're going to keep rallying the troops at the right time, stay within striking distance, totally pun intended, of the Sharks and the Gunslingers. And I got the Cobras taking the win over in West Texas. West Texas, though, trust me, it'll be close. It'll be one possession, or they're going to at least put up a pretty good effort-wise, given that they have been in pretty much in every game this year, especially second half of the season with some of the additions they've added. Remember, they got Walter Thomas, by the way, from they just got signed on. So great defensive piece they'll add. Former Cobra himself, former Mustang. I just think Carolina's going to take it. They'll probably I think they'll capitalize on one stop, one pick, maybe a fumble, and ice it away, or maybe just kind of keep at bay during the course of this contest.
I think West Texas is going to, when they start the game, that pregame get-together, they have the Orlando game on their TV. They're going to see what's going on in Orlando and get rejuvenized and excited that their season can still be there. They can still grab the playoff berth. But unfortunately, Carolina's at another level right now. I think they, right there, keep the pressure on Jacksonville. Keep the pressure on San Antonio as well for a pivotal 2-game series against the Gunslingers coming up as well. I think Carolina wins this game, not like they did a couple of weeks ago. You're going to see kind of a deja vu of what happened last week in Edgar County Coliseum out in Odessa. I'm going to say 55 to 51. I think it's that close to the game.
Okay.
So
I buy that for $1. RoboCop references.
Yes,
Who cares?
Yeah. I knew where you get that from.
I buy that for $1.
Yeah. I don't know. $2, man. That's inflation now. And I don't know.
Oh man, we inflating the deuce.
Yeah.
I need a little more cheddar. 2 points doesn't cut it these days. Can you sneak it up for 3? We'll make field goals 4, and the rest of it will just leave the same. Counterbalances itself. Anyway, we got a game of the week to go on. What are we doing? What is it? What is this? Deuce humor?
The Quattro.
The Quattro. Oh wow, we got the Quattro, baby.
Yeah.
2 for
That's
2.
not going to happen. No, someone's going to say
No.
that Jim and Zach said there's a new kicking rule. No.
Nah, we might jump the shark if we see the Quattro. I might have some words, be like, hey, now we don't need 4 points from one of these kicks.
No.
Slow down. Anyway, game of the week, Sharks Preds, matchup number 2 overall. First of a 2-game series between these two. It's like I'm talking baseball terms, but hey, here we are. Sharks again going to the jungle this time. Remember last time, upset victory for the Preds. However, both teams completely different. Not completely different, but very much different rosters and structure going into this one than what we saw earlier in the year, especially the Sharks in particular. Different QB scenario than during that game to even consider as well. I like the Preds. I like the veteran talent. I think it's coming together well right now. My question is, do I think that this defense has enough in the tank to slow down Sam Castronova, who is playing even better than last year somehow? That's what's amazing to me. It's somehow even better than the year prior with that. And do you think that Danny Southwick gets enough time to not be under duress from the Sharks front three or front four if you want to count the Mac linebacker as well? I don't know. I am going to be skeptic about that. I think overall talent-wise, I got to lean on with this. I'm going to take the Sharks, but I'm telling you, man, it's going to come down to like the buzzer. I got the Sharks winning within the final minute. They're going to ice out the clock and get a touchdown. But it's going to be definitely a defensive stand or goal line decision that will make or break this one in the jungle. I just feel it's going to go that way. These teams are too talented on both sides to see a blowout. But I could be wrong. I think that it's more likely last possession type of contest, which is my favorite type of arena football contest, but I'm taking the Sharks.
This game is going to be one of the most marquee matchups of the season. I think both offenses will be very explosive. There's going to be very few mistakes in this game. This is going to be one of the cleanest games, I think, of the year for the whole season.
Nice.
For that matter, it's a rivalry. 61-60 final score. Sharks with the win. A little payback from the 61-60 loss from week 4. So series tied, going back to Jacksonville for week 3. I think this is going to be a very exciting game. You're going to see both Solomon and Darius Prince go off. And honestly, you can honestly say this, if Sam has another one of his performances like he's had with perfection, only 5-6 touchdowns, no interceptions, he could solidify himself as the MVP if he does that again in this game on the road in a very big matchup. Will I be surprised if Orlando wins this game? No, I won't. They have a very good team, and Orlando will be that 4, possibly 3 seed you do not want to face on an off day in the first round of the playoffs.
No, sir. No, sir. I'm telling you though, it is going to be a blast. It is going to be a blast. That's one that no matter what, this is an offense to anyone that's watching that West Texas game. I will have the Sharks Preds up on my primary screen one way or another. Unless that one goes into a tailspin for some reason, which again, I don't think so. That will be my main one on the screen, and I will very much do my best to keep tabs on the other one, and we will still give you good coverage. But you, me, Ralph, maybe Phil, depending on how all this goes with our schedules, we'll be jumping on and having a good old chat around the folks that hopefully Donnie's back. I wonder if because Donnie wasn't in this week, so I was really missing the Right You Are Donnie conversation. Good commentary from the crew. But, it's not a Preds broadcast without hearing that iconic phrase go across the mic at least 2 to 3 times a game, minimum.
Yeah, if Donnie's back, the over-under is going to be set this week at 25.5. So someone keep track. If not, I'll do it whenever we watch the game.
Otherwise, you and I need to be more on top of answering trivia questions.
Yeah. We'll
do that. Last week when someone mentioned about BMW's acronym, and I was watching the replay, I'm like, but it's Bavarian Motorworks. It's Bavarian Motorworks. And I'm like waiting. No one's getting it. Like, guys, it's Bavarian Motorworks. I got this live. I was doing a game in Canton, Ohio, though, for a different league.
No, yeah, the trivia question is, well, interesting ones going around, but to close out the show, I want to say to the normal fans that go on these streams and look at the chats, how the NAL community in Orlando and the NAL community in Carolina all came together and basically defended their own product against certain other individuals. Like
right.
That's you don't see that in you do see that in other streams, but it's not as relevant like it was in our NAL streams. Like we had total fan bases basically going, dude, buzz off. We know who you are. Just leave. Go. Leave. That's mad respect to the people who watch our game. Good, but also the trivia's was awesome. I think they did a trivia question. No, they did a suggestion about some type of like foods. It's one thing about Orlando's commentary. They'll go from a trivia question to the top 5 dishes to eat in an Italian restaurant or
they
beer.
love the tune-in audience. Like that's what I always like is they'll acknowledge, or at least they play theirs different where they acknowledge the tune-in audience. And I think there's preference to everyone. You know, like for example, our buddy Ralph. I respect how it's full on watch the broadcast, play out, focus on that. But then you see like you get that variety where the guys in Orlando, they'll call the game. But then in the middle of it, they'll go, "Hey, what's everybody talking about?
Yeah.
Let's talk about these." Like you'll hear Gummy Bear, who I think is like the most mentioned guy on those broadcasts. I'm like, "Hey, Gummy Bear's getting a lot of positivity from these guys. Good for him."
I think we might have to change our name to Tic Tacs so we can get
Tic
more
Tacs?
attention on the
You just
chat.
want to start calling ourselves candy. Yeah. I'll call myself. I'll go by my favorite candy. I'll call myself Snickers. What's your favorite candy, Jim? Come on. What's your alias?
Reese's.
Oh, you're Reese's.
I'm Reese's.
You're Reese's. Okay.
No wrong way to eat a Reese's. Just saying.
No. Just don't eat the wrapper.
No. I've done that before on accident, but no.
Oh, no.
Halloween, about 5 years ago, 6 years ago. Maybe longer.
Slow down, man. The candy's still going to be there.
I needed that urge of energy.
To be fair, I have also done that too, so
See?
You're not alone.
Hey.
Not
It's
alone.
like, I know fans are like, hey, here's Jim and Zach talking about food at the end of the show. It's like the Halloween candy. You think it's like gummy bears or like that soft candy, and you go bite into it and you feel like you just destroyed a tooth and you had to go get a filler
Yeah.
because it's a hard candy.
Yep. I bet you're darn right.
Oh,
You're
look.
darn right, man.
Oh, no. Yeah, gotta go to the desk.
Oh, my tooth's cracked.
Yeah.
All right, I think that's about going to do it. Enough of this candy talk. We'll maybe bring it up and have a good laugh on the Preds stream. We'll throw that up. Maybe I'll change my YouTube name to Snickers.
I'll probably ask Bane what his favorite candy is.
Yeah, well, you'll be on there. Actually, what am I kidding? You might not even be on the Discord at all. You'll be at the game.
I probably will. I guarantee they have Wi-Fi in the building.
Well, I know they do. I'm just saying.
Headsets.
You got all those loud Preds fans. You got the Sharks fans in the building. They're going to be chirping at each other a little bit.
True.
Be friendly fans, by the way. Let's end the show that way. Don't go at each other's throats. You guys should be chill. Just being honest. But it'll be intense. Be intense in there.
It's gonna be a fun trip. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. Well, that'll about do it, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you next week here. It was a 117 there. NAL Rebound Week 14 edition. Stay tuned for that. Sticking around?
Game day,
You're
man.
looking.
Game day. He said week 14 rebounds. Like, wait a minute. That's next week.
That's what I'm previewing.
Oh, see, me not paying
I was
attention.
that's why I slowed down. Like, what are you? I'm not. We're leaving this in because I'm definitely like, what are you looking at me for?
Sorry. Guess what? I just made the.
You just made the list.
Use that one in a minute.
No, I have had. Literally, we can have a TikTok with just Jim just having gaffes. This episode's full of it. The whole freaking episode. Geesh.
If we get a little more time, off-season wise, we should just put something together of just bloopers or what we think are just oopsies, if you will.
Yeah.
This is the end of the show, though. So tune in next week, NAL Rebound Week 14 edition. Stay tuned for that. We'll see you on that show. Remember one thing, though. You can't gaff this one.
Don't be a jack out of the box.
You did it. A+. You get a gold star. Catch you next week, everybody. Enjoy the weekend's games. Jim will see you guys in Orlando. I will be on stream. Until next one, everyone.
Yeah. Let's go. I got a vision I see in my head, a melody buried deep into my soul. They call us crazy, we cutting the edge, unlocking the future and letting it go. This is a calling that's higher. The time we decided our stories are gonna be told. This is where legends are born. We paving the road, a future that favors the bold. Break the rules, break the laws. This is the moment we change it all. Break the rules, break the laws. This is the moment we change it all. Yeah, greatness. Yeah, it feels like greatness. Woo! Greatness. Yeah, it feels like greatness. Legendary in the making. Reach out and we take it. About to emerge, we on the verge, and it feels like greatness. Something coming, I can
Covering all your favorite parts of the 50-yard fight. This is the Inside the Walls podcast with Zach Heilman and Jim Mernier.